Welcome. Find yourselves somewhere you can see and hear. Come toward the front. There's plenty of room. Make sure you have a hymnal, actually 2. Come forward, come. Don't sit in the back. I want to tell you all to squish in, but I guess we don't do that anymore. Could you guys sing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In for a little bit? Maybe start from the beginning and just go through it again. Thank you. Reverend Adrian, would you come join me? Welcome, everyone, for the second time this afternoon. We figured out how to get here. I just want to say congratulations to us. I'm going to introduce you to our host. This is Reverend Adrian. She is, I think your official title is Priest in Charge.
Priest in Charge.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, and it's you guys got such a great turnout today. It's a joy to be sharing this sacred space with you. And I know not having a church home right now, we're just delighted to provide the space as you bridge to the next part of the journey of this faith community. And I hope that you feel a welcome. I hope you feel a sense of God in this space, and I thank you for adding your prayers and practice of the presence of God to this space. And I'm excited to worship with you today. This is the first Unitarian worship service that I've been to. So lots to learn. And I know you have fantastic musicians, a fantastic preacher. Yes, I've checked you out online, Peggy. And
thank you. Church of the Incarnation has been fabulously hospitable to us, and we are very grateful, and we look forward to a partnership over these next couple of years. So we bring ourselves to this new space, knowing it as holy, knowing ourselves as holy beings, no matter where we are. We are now in relationship with this church, this building, and this congregation. We are in covenant with each other, and we bring the spirit of that covenant with us. I see some of you are reminding me I didn't take it off. I am sorry. So join me in praying this blessing on our arrival. Having left the familiar, may these new walls hold our prayers just as gently as the old walls. May they hold our hope just as enthusiastically, our music just as gratefully, our sorrow just as tenderly. Knowing, as Reverends Holmes and Harrington reminded us so often, that community church is a spirit, not a building, may our spirit fill this place, and may our faith remain vibrant, relevant, and necessary as we continue on this journey. And let us remind ourselves of who we are by together reciting our unison affirmation. It is on the program. I'm hoping you picked up at the door. You're going to see that I cut and pasted a little bit of an old version. Let's just read the old version together. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides, and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. Please rise in body or in spirit, and let's sing together, Gather the Spirit, number 347.
Our reading this morning or this afternoon is from Octavia Butler, The Earthseed. The God of Earthseed is not a person. The God of Earthseed does not love us or hate us or watch over us or know us at all. The God of Earthseed just is.
God is power, infinite, irresistible, inexorable, indifferent.
The one irresistible force in the universe is change. Everything in the universe changes. Every living thing, every bit of matter, all the energy in the universe changes in some way.
All that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change.
Whether you're a human being, an insect, a microbe, or a stone, this verse is true. Everyone knows on an intellectual level that change is inevitable. But many people don't feel it on an emotional level. And so they create gods, supernatural authority, figures to stand between them and change. Big Daddy God, Big Cop God, Big King God. For many people, God is just another name for whatever makes them feel special and protected. Earthseed deals with ongoing reality, not with supernatural authority. God just is.
As wind, as water, as fire, as life, God is both creative and destructive, demanding and yielding, sculptor and clay. God is infinite potential. God is change.
Together we're going to sing Why Way Out, which is number 1020. I wonder if I could ask our choir members, could you come out a little bit so everyone can be sure to hear you? Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together.
Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. What a statement. What a concept to wrap our heads and hearts around on this day, of all days. As of this moment, we, the community of Community Church of New York, have entered into a liminal space. This is the in-between time. Liminality can be a disorienting period. It's true. And it can be a great opportunity for transformation. The Jewish and Christian scriptures are filled with examples of people in liminal spaces. Jonah in the belly of the big fish. Ruth, when she gives up her identity as a Moabite and wanders for a time with Naomi. Noah, his family and the animals on the ark. The Apostle Paul, when he is struck by a blinding light on the road to Damascus. And the road will be muddy and rough. They weren't on the road for long before the Israelites began to complain about how things had been better back in Egypt. They resisted that liminal time of wandering. And who wouldn't resist that? Leaving the security of what is familiar and therefore comforting is difficult and disorienting, even when what you are leaving is necessary to let go of, to leave in order to change, to be free, as in the case of the Israelites, to transform. And usually the leaving, the change, means there's an ending that is happening. And friends, when there is an ending, we know there is also a beginning. But before the beginning of something new, there is the liminal, in-between time. The really good thing about the in-between time, what we can hold on to, is that this is where the magic happens. This is the time where transformation can and indeed is most likely to occur. Let us ask ourselves, what is emerging? Who is the community church? And who will we be? Who do we want to be? What are we giving birth to? Let me ask you, you and you and you. Who are you in this liminal time of transformation? Each of us plays a role in this community, and often we hold multiple roles and responsibilities, which is very true in this room as I look out and see many faces that I see in many a different Zoom room over these past 2 years. So in this liminal time of transformation, what role do you play? Who are you? Are you a parent? Are you a midwife? Are you a friend who comes over to cook a meal and do the laundry? Are you a wisdom and memory keeper, holding the stories of our past? Are you a dreamer and a visionary? What is your role in this great turning?
Meagan and I are bouncing back and forth a little bit with today's sermon. It is my job to see if I can try and help us situate ourselves a little bit right here in this space, our temporary home. We are in the Church of the Incarnation. It is a Christian church, an Episcopal tradition. The Episcopalians are within the Anglican Communion. They are descendants of the Church of England, founded originally, you're going to remember this from your high school history, I'm sure of it. Founded originally by King Henry VIII. He was we know the story, right? You know King Henry. It's not pretty. Are there any children here? I actually wrote and rewrote this a couple of times because I thought, really, what can you say? Let's just say he wanted to annul his marriage. Henry declared himself the supreme head of the Church of England, which was at the time a little bit shocking, but he did it when the Protestant tsunami was washing across Europe, which actually made his betrayal of Rome less dangerous than that of Luther or Calvin or the radical leaders of the Anabaptists and, let's be honest, the Unitarians. So when Henry died, his son became king. His son was 9 years old, poor sweet Edward. That did not last very long. And Henry's oldest daughter, Mary, you might know her as Bloody Mary, she became England's monarch. And she, like her very betrayed mother, was Roman Catholic. Now, religion at the time was national, was not personal. You belonged to the faith of your people. So what Mary said everyone was is what everyone was, regardless of whether you, in fact, believed something different. Mary told everyone not to worry about that silly little blip moving into that, whatever it was called, that was a debacle, and we, of course, are Roman Catholic. When people protested or tried to worship in the Anglican tradition, she had them killed, thus her nickname, Bloody Mary. I just really want to say, in Mary's defense, Mary didn't do anything that all of her predecessors didn't do. Mary was a woman, and when she did things that the men before her did, she got a bad name, and frankly, she was canceled because she didn't understand the whole mass media culture that had just hit. She didn't realize that when you killed people, people were going to print those things in a book, and forever and ever, there would be the Book of Martyrs, naming all the people you killed. It was not a good look for Mary. She died, and her sister took over, Queen Elizabeth I. Elizabeth was both a better leader and a smarter theologian than her father, her brother, or her sister. She moved the country away from Rome and toward the Church of England, and her very long rule and her vision for her country really worked quite well to unify her people, or at least many of her people. I do want to sort of note for us that there were the Non-Conformists. Can you take a guess about who they were? Yeah, that's right. You're sitting here. The Non-Conformists, the Unitarians, and the Congregationalists, also called the Puritans, who wanted to, of course, purify the church of all the Roman trappings. They were persecuted, they fled, they came over here, they eventually found themselves right here on the land of the Lenape. So I promised Meagan I wouldn't talk too long, and you know I can do this for a very long time, so I'm going to jump ahead. When this land was colonized by the British, it was declared for the Queen and the Church of England. About 25% of the people here were Anglican. But after the Revolutionary War, those ties were cut, and the American Anglicans became Episcopalians. The congregation that we're in right now was founded in 1852, and they moved into this building in 1864. I think we were right across the street, right? We were around the corner, on the corner of 34th and Park at the time. This space is considered home to some of the finest ecclesiastical art in the country, which includes this spectacular stained glass. Even on a gray day, it is absolutely gorgeous. And I don't know, maybe Adrian, Reverend, you can tell us which one. I think one of them was made himself by Louis Comfort Tiffany, am I right?
I think so. Yes, a few different glass.
They are actual Tiffany glass. The Church of the Incarnation is part of the broad church movement, which is the progressive wing of the church. So I did want to tell you more about this particular church, but I think that we have a lot of time here, and we will have time to discover all of what it means to be here. For now, I just want us to feel grounded in our new home.
We all have things we carry with us from our previous experiences and relationships. Whether these are positive or negative experiences, regardless of how we've processed our feelings, they are a part of who we are. Who we are right now are people who are forged by our experiences, forged in the elements, forged in fire and ice and wind and earth. For some of us, this space we are in right now feels strange and different. For some of us, it feels familiar and comforting. For some of us, it feels oppressive. And for others, it feels exciting in anticipation of that future crossing of the threshold into our new long-term home that is coming someday. For many of us, being in this worship space feels like some combination of those things. Whatever our feelings, we know this too is temporary. For we are but visitors here in the Church of the Incarnation, welcomed and cared for guests, yes, and for this we are grateful. Being here offers us another opportunity, an opportunity to get curious.
We are travelers, visitors in this new land. Whenever I travel, I discover cultures, even micro-cultures, that break me open to new ways of living in the world. And I'm sure that this is true for all of you. There seem to be two ways of traveling. One might be couched in anxiety and a need for comfort, hoping to recreate home as much as possible. And the other is to be open to something entirely new, something that's very different. It's natural to want everyone to be just like us, to find our tribe everywhere, to ask ourselves, where is it that I can most be at home? It's important that we feel like these are our people. But the beauty of humanity on this planet is the wild cultural diversity that we've created here. Certainly everyone can find like-minded people, but there is rich life outside these circles. Stretching ourselves to learn about others, challenging ourselves to be open to new ideas is what it means to live in a multicultural world, and might I suggest what it means to be Unitarian Universalist. As we move into our new home, I'm inviting all of us to engage a little cultural curiosity. Instead of wanting to force our own ways into someone else's space, let's be open to learning about how others do things. The more we learn about the people who call this space home, the wider and richer and deeper our own lives will be.
There's a saying, home is where the heart is. This saying reminds us that it's not any one particular place necessarily that's one's home. And this is also true of one's spiritual and religious home. Another way of expressing this concept is the phrase, God is where the people are. We are what makes the community, not the place where we gather. An important lesson that we learned early on in the pandemic is that our precious spiritual community is not defined by the building where we gather. Because when it was unsafe to gather in person in that building, we made a new way. After so much time physically apart, we also learned how important it is to many of us to be able to gather and to be in one another's presence. Just as the pandemic taught us more clearly the importance of getting consent before touching someone, do you want to shake hands? Should we wave, touch elbows, fist bump? Are you doing hugs? The pandemic also gave us the opportunity to recognize what really and truly matters to us on a deep, fundamental level. And for so many of us, this community is at the top of that list. As we sang at the beginning of this service, here we gather. We gather in peace, we gather in thanks, in sympathy, in hope, compassion, and strength. This is who we are. We are a people who gather together. We gather with one another. We gather for one another. Wherever that gathering happens to take place, when we come together, something special happens, and we co-create a sacred space. Whether that is online or in person, whether that is in the park, at a restaurant, in 40 East 35th Street, or right here at the Church of the Incarnation.
There's a line in Christian scripture, one of Paul's letters to the Corinthians, which says, "If I speak in the tongues of men or of angels, but I do not have love, I am only a resounding gong of a clanging cymbal." I am heeding this ancient wisdom today, asking myself, what can be done in the name of love? Am I acting in the name of love, or are my actions just performative? Do I believe in the words I say? Am I sending my own thoughts through this filter of love? These next few weeks, these next few years might be challenging. Sometimes when people are challenged, we behave poorly. We don't speak well of each other. Maybe we have expectations sparked by entitlement. We forget our theology of welcome. We walk away from love and from one another and our core values. But what I think is next for us, this next phase of community church history, will be a time for us to live into the spirit of our theology, to embody love fiercely, and to be transformed by the love we carry to offer each other freely. If we aren't ministering to our buildings, we can minister to each other and to this hurting, broken world that so desperately needs our message of radical inclusivity. We are who we've always been, non-conformists, breaking new theological ground, bringing love to the streets. Meagan is right. We are on the precipice of transformation, but our theology of revolutionary love will always be who we were and who we are and who we are yet to become. Let us sing together. You can stay seated. Let us sing together, Building a New Way. It's number 1017 in the teal hymnal.
Life at Community Church is busy, no matter where we are. It is our hope that wherever you are and in whatever way you are comfortable engaging in the mission and ministry of this church, we have provided opportunities for you. Much that will happen in these next few weeks will be experimental. We're figuring out our new space, and we ask that everyone keep an open heart and open mind as we work through the kinks. To keep everyone safe, we're providing coffee and tea, but no food today, right by the front door. And we encourage you to move outdoors to remove your masks. Now, today is Amy Wilson's last day with us. Amy started as our broadcaster 2 years ago. She went from working 10 hours to 25 hours this year and has been an integral part of our online services as well as our podcast producer. Now, Amy has graduated and has found work in her field. Please wish her well during coffee hour. Today is also the first time that many of us are meeting Reverend Jude in person. Please. Yeah. Please do introduce yourself to him and help him acclimate to our congregation. We're streaming this service as we will every week. This week, there will be no online fellowship hour, but that will change effective next week. After the service is over, you will be able to access our Zoom room through the website. We only have this space until 5 p.m., which means that we have to be cleaned up and out the door by then. So we would be especially grateful for all of your help in making that happen. Every Sunday, we pass a basket to support the many ministries of this congregation. Our spiritual home thrives as a result of our generosity of time, talent, and treasure. We now receive these gifts in gratitude.
And together, let's sing Come and Go With Me, number 1018, while the basket is being passed.
words, knowing
How quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken. Let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another, the watchword of our lives together. So our light goes out everywhere into the world. Our light goes out everywhere into the world to bring healing and hope to all the places it's needed. Let us go in peace to love and serve the world and one another. Our postlude will be sung by you, who, by the way, have been incredibly quiet. So let's try it. It is number 116, I'm on my way. Maybe rise in body or spirit as we sing this final word.